Can I have your name, please, and what law practice do you do?
Matthew Strugar. I do a lot of civil rights activist defense, including animal rights activist defense.
What made you become a lawyer?
I saw a lot of lawyers getting things done in the legal process that I thought I couldn't get done as a regular activist writing letters or campaigning outside of protesting outside of buildings. I met some folks who were suing Unocal for slave labor violations in Burma and winning and getting, Unocal to completely change their labor practices in Burma and recompensate victims of slave labor by many millions of dollars. And I thought this is an effective way to be able to get some things done.
Tell us what's going on with the animal rights movement on all the cases and green scare and stuff.
Right, and there's a pretty significant crackdown right now. I think probably most people watching this are pretty familiar with the green scare. The big case working its way through the courts right now is the Shack 7 case. They were, there's six activists in a corporation who were convicted of interstate stalking, among other things, for their running a website and their campaigns against Stop Huntington, or their campaigns against Huntington Life Sciences. They lost at trial. They were convicted, and they've been serving between 1 and 7 years. Kevin got. They're currently serving their sentences. Their case is on appeal. We lost before the appeals court, which was a devastating blow. We received one partial dissent from one judge. Right now, we're seeking to get that court to rehear the case, or perhaps take it to the Supreme Court if we have to. The chances of that happening are unlikely, but we're working to do that. There's other activists being indicted all over the place. 2 indictments recently in Iowa for an animal liberation raid that took place 5 years ago. There's the ATA 4 case up in San Jose for some other folks who have been leading some aggressive home demonstrations, and there's a case here in LA as well. It seems like a lot of the cases coming down now. Are home demonstration cases where people say some pretty incendiary things outside individuals' homes and then get indicted for things like stalking or threatening a school employee and those kinds of crimes.
So protesting at vivisector's house considered stalking?
In a lot of prosecutors' eyes, it is. What's interesting in some of these cases that you see is that the police are present at the actual protest, and they're present for all the chanting, and the police don't arrest anybody then. And the police actually, when the vivisector comes out and says, you got to tell these kids to stop, the police say, they're not doing anything wrong, they have the right to say this. And then years later, when the prosecutors want to come after the so-called leaders or the charismatic folks, they use the video from those old things and then say, actually this was illegal, and they indict them as part of a broader conspiracy. So yes, home demonstrations at vivisector's house are the #1 thing we're seeing in that animal rights movement as far as indictments recently.
You also work on human rights issues?
That's right. Yeah.
Can you tell us some of the stuff you're working on?
Yeah. I used to work at a spot called the Center for Constitutional Rights, where we did a lot of work with the Guantanamo litigation, and they're actually the folks that brought that Unocal case I was talking about earlier about slave labor in Burma. I worked on a class action involving all Arab, Southeastern, and Muslim men who were rounded up in the New Jersey and New York area on suspicion of terrorism after 9/11. Right now I work at a disability rights law firm, and we do a lot of cases against the police and the prisons for discrimination of people with disabilities, including pulling over people who are deaf or hard of hearing and saying to them audibly, can we search your car? And when the person doesn't respond no because they can't hear the cops will search their car. Or in the jails, they take people, it's so overcrowded that they take people out of their wheelchairs who have almost no use of their legs, and they just give them crutches, and people have to literally crawl to the toilet or crawl to the bed. Just deplorable conditions for people with disabilities. So that's sort of my day job.
Are there a lot of animal rights and anarchists and activist lawyers?
There's some. I wouldn't say there's a lot. You see, the people you really see stepping up and doing these cases on behalf of animal rights and animal liberation activists these days are the old radical lawyers from the 60s and 70s that are still around and still doing political cases. They're not necessarily in the movement, but they see the political repression and they see the parallels. And the old school lawyers are very good about that. You see more and more sort of kids coming out of punk rock and animal liberation movements becoming lawyers now, but they're mostly young people without a whole lot of experience to take on the lead role in defending these cases. So I think in 5-10 years from now, you'll see a lot of people who have a lot of experience and come out of those movements. But right now, there's not a whole lot of them.
Could you give suggestions suggestion for somebody who comes from like a poor income family and who are interested in becoming a lawyer?
Yeah, you know, there's a great law school here in Los Angeles called the People's College of Law that is, all the lawyers are, all the professors are volunteers. Unfortunately, it's unaccredited, which means it's a little bit harder to be able to sit for the bar exam, but you are still able to. And you know, People's College of Law, it's extremely inexpensive. It's probably 1/100th the price of a private school, like USC type education. And I really think you have to have a 4-year degree from a university.
Get a 4-year degree first.
Yeah, you need a 4-year degree first before you can go into law school.
Do they have financial aid and stuff? Student loans?
Oh yeah, all law schools have all sorts of financial aid. You're going to have better luck at one of the public universities, but People's College is really where you should look. And then Southwestern Law School has a great tradition of turning out activist lawyers, and it's also one of the lesser expensive schools in Los Angeles.
All right, thank you.
Of course.